I want to bring out my guest now, the Senate Speaker, Ekwe Ethuro. Thank you so much for coming on this evening.
Thank you, Larry.
There's a debate that died down somewhere in the middle of, since 2013 to date, but which was never concluded, between the Senate and the National Assembly, which is the upper and which is the lower house.
I think that that debate needs to be sustained, but we felt for the sake of harmony and cooperation between the two houses of Parliament, we needed to leave it that way, because the Constitution is not very clear in terms of the order. But ordinarily, in all legislatures, the Senate is usually the upper house.
Because this has come up time and again, the way Kenyans perceive the Senate, ni nyumba ya wazee.
Yes, that issue has been there, and we are happy to be nyumba ya wazee, because with the wazee, there is wisdom. The Senate, as a second chamber, is really a chamber of reflection, of sobriety. And I think we have lived to that expectation. You know, being old or being young, there's no intrinsic value in that particular, except as an older person, you are more mature, you have more experience. So that's a tag I would gladly wear.
You don't mind it?
I don't mind it at all.
The converse of that is that a lot
of course, you know, I'm not a mzee.
At 53, you're young.
Yes.
The converse of that, though, is a lot of senators now running for governor positions because they feel they will have more power then, which seems to imply that as a senator, they don't have real power.
It depends on, you know, the society, a democratic society like ours has come up, and in the constitutional arrangement, we have come up with the democratic institutions. And each of these institutions plays a particular role. So the power you get as a state organ will depend on the kind of mandate you have. And each of those powers is equally important. I think what you are seeing, one, it is not true that all senators are running away to become governors.
But a couple of them have declared interest in governor seats,
yes,
not defending the senators.
And so have a number of members of National Assembly declared their desire to become senators. And so I wouldn't look at it that way. The way I'm looking at it is, you know, the failure for when the Council of Governors challenged the Senate, when we came up with a law that was accepted by both parties, by both houses, and assented into law by the President, the County Development Board. That was a forum in which the entire leadership of the county can come together. So what you have now seen over the last 4 years, that there has been the nexus amongst the various players is missing. And so instead of people sitting together, and you can be sure that in their last campaigns for the 2013 elections, the senators and governors were an item. But now, since they assumed office, they became separate. And I think that's why you see a lot of that desire to go there. And of course, you know the kind of senators we have. These are some of the most experienced, some of the most loyal people, patriotic to the country. So they are committed to devolution.
What will you do after August 2017?
I hope to remain as a speaker. That's a job I have come to like.
So you're not taking an elective position?
Well, even a speaker is elective.
That's a very non-committal answer.
No, it is the correct answer. I'm just saying I'm not running in the normal, you know, for an elective position. Because others will be elected, it's my prayer that Jubilee wins, and then the Jubilee senators and the Jubilee party will be able to elect me.
I want you to react to a story I just want to show everybody. So yes, you watch this and then let's talk about it when we come back. Cabinet Secretaries Fred Matiang'i, Mwangi Kiunjuri and Charles Keter today criticized the opposition for provoking President Uhuru Kenyatta by claiming credit for the Jubilee government's development projects. The three ministers defended the president's outbursts at Nyambera DOK Primary School, that's in Kisii Town, after fundraising for Kisii Town Catholic Parish. Devolution CS Mwangi Kiunjuri, a former politician himself, said those who have been conning Kenyans since independence were well known and Kenyans should avoid them by ensuring they're not elected to power. Education's Matiang'i accused the opposition of flat-out lying, while Keter, another ex-politician, defended Jubilee's record. In Mombasa, Another former elected leader turned Minister Eugene Wamalwa attended President Kenyatta's rally at Tononoka grounds and also addressed the crowd there. I want you to listen to some of this sound, then we'll talk about it when we come back.
There are too many lies that are being told about politics. Too many lies. Too much propaganda. Some of our political leaders are engaged in lying around. Nimewambia 1.6 million children will be doing exams this year, all of them paid by the government. Sasa, how can you tell people we have done nothing? Unless there's a problem with you yourself.
Jameni, lakini nyinyi ujiulize. Wewe ukisimama hapa unaanza kuambia watu kitendawili. Unaelezea tutacheza mpira gani? Tutacheza ile. Hiyo ndio historia. Na ndio unatembeza tu ndani ya watu. Lakini kuna wale wengine utawaona wakisema urongo mikutano ya kisiasa. Ama ukiona mikutano yao mikubwa sana ni hamasishi. Malaki wafu hawana mangi.
Tunafanya hatuoni ni nani alipiga kura wapi. Kwa sababu tunataka usawa wote Jamhuri ya Kenya kuanzia kule Mombasa all the way mpaka Kisumu.
Nataka kwanza nirekebishe propaganda imewekwa hapa juzi na magavana wawili ambao wamesema hakuna kitu serikali ya Jubilee imefanya hapa. Na nataka niseme tangu dunia yumbwe, serikali ya Kenya imepea watu wa hapa Mombasa lita milioni 50 peke yake. Na tulikuwa na mradi wa mzima ulioundwa na mkoloni 1953. Siku ya leo watu wa Mombasa, nataka niwaambie Mheshimiwa Uhuru Kenyatta amekuwa Uchina, Mheshimiwa Naibu wa Rais amekuwa Uchina, tumepata pesa mwezi wa 5. Tunaenda kufungua hiyo kofuli kuachilia pipeline ya pili imwage maji hapa Mombasa. Tuko pamoja?
The cabinet secretaries appear to be publicly discussing politics. What is your reaction to this?
From what I have heard from them, I don't think they are talking politics. They are talking about the various projects under their dockets and trying to enlighten the public on what they have been able to achieve. It just happens that they also operate in a political environment. So in terms of discounting some of the other propaganda, they have a responsibility to say it as they know, and you have heard all of them.
Eugene Wamalwa attended a political rally and talked to politics and said the opposition was lying.
I don't see any problem with that. One is the appointing authority is the top politician. That's the President of the Republic. They are serving a Jubilee government. And so, to me, the issue of politics, and even in my position, we are all politicians. But you see, the way you conduct your affairs will determine whether you are being partisan or you are actually being objective. The non-political commitment is in the discharge of your responsibility that you are not going to act with fear or favor, depending on the kind of person you are. But in terms of defending the record of the government you are serving, and you as one of the chief implementers of that particular program, you have all the right to defend that position in the public.
Why did the Constitution demand that ministers not be elected MPs or senators? Wasn't it to separate between the politics and the policy work?
It was to separate between executive in terms of implementing projects, right, and from the legislative arm in terms of bringing up the laws. You must remember, any good law must be informed by good policy. Good policy is generated by the national executive. But what I see the cabinet secretaries doing, particularly for now, I mean, CS Fred Matiang'i, whom we all know that has done a good job, is saying you cannot say we have done nothing in the docket of education, when we have said we are going to pay exam fees for 1.6 million children. What is political there?
Is this your view as a lawyer, or is this your view as a Jubilee supporter?
This is my Jubilee as a Kenyan citizen who is fortunate enough to hold a public office.
So you don't think the cabinet secretary is increasingly discussing politics is breaking the law at all?
I don't think so.
Let's leave it there just for the moment. I want to take a quick break. We still have plenty more to talk with the Speaker of the Senate, Ekwe Ethuro. He's staying with me right after this break. We'll come back and talk a bit more, including those comments by President Kenyatta in Turkana a couple of days ago. Welcome back to NTV Weekend Edition. The Speaker of the Senate, Ekwe Ethuro, is still with me. Thank you so much for staying with me. You are a former leader, a former MP for Turkana Central. And it's been in the news this past week because of President Kenyatta speaking in Turkana, said this, and everybody's been talking about it.
Kwa kufikiria mimi ni mtu ya kutishwa, watafute mwingine. Kura ni kura na tutakuja kuomba kama wengine. Mtupatie, mkose kutupatia. Kwani mnafikiria dunia itaisha? Wacha story mingi hapa bana. Dunia itaendelea. Au ni namna gani? Si ni hivyo? Na ndipo tuwasema kwa viongozi tuheshimiane jameni.
What was your reaction to President Kenyatta's, what people are calling an outburst in Turkana?
I will not use the same words. First, I think there is a misconception that the president was attacking the governor. That meeting was very good. The governor, actually, after being informed by State House of the visit of the president, made every effort, because we were together in Naivasha for the Devolution conference, to go to the county and to receive the president, as any responsible governor would do. And they had a very good cordial relationship, talking, even the sitting arrangement, even the speaking protocol, they are all perfectly in order.
So who was he referring to then?
He was referring to some other people outside Turkana County who visit the county and actually claim that the president and the deputy president are interested in grabbing land for purpose of taking advantage of the oil.
Raila Odinga had been in Turkana just days before the president was there. Was he referring to Raila Odinga?
I told you he was referring to people outside the Turkana County.
Is it acceptable in your view for the president to use language like this in front of wananchi? Play this.
Mtu akisimama hapa aseme ti Uhuru akona haja na mafuta ya wengine, ashindwe na shetani mshenzi. Mimi watu wasiwe watu ambao watakuja kudanganya wa Kenya.
Senator, is that presidential language?
Completely. It is the ordinary lingo of Kenyans. If you put the expression ashindwe, that
Shetani.
means shetani. Yes. You know, in the Kenyan ordinary parlance, every time, even people make their own mistakes, and then they say, shetani alitudanganya. And so you'll find in the entire congregation in a church, shetani ashindwe. It's an expression that should not happen.
This was not a church meeting, though.
I am only telling you that it happens in the church as a public place. It can also happen in a barasa. It can happen anywhere.
What about Mjinga?
And
an idiot. He used that too.
I don't know why we are trying to create a scenario where we are treating that the president cannot feel irritated about falsehoods, deliberately, purposefully being propagated by certain individuals that are baseless, are not true. I mean, how do you we have the land laws in this republic, and Turkana falls under the community land law, which the president himself assented to. There is no way, when you give the narrative that the president is interested in the land of Turkana to grab, even if it were you, Larry, how would you react?
Would you use language like that in public at a rally?
Why not?
Would you use language like that in the Senate?
He did not abuse anybody. In the Senate, we have our own standing orders. They are what we call parliamentary words. And so you need to challenge, and we'll always disallow some words and we'll allow certain words.
So you would not allow this in the Senate if a senator spoke like that?
If the senator spoke like that, the Senate will not allow. But he was not speaking at the Senate.
So if it is not acceptable in Senate because it's unparliamentary, why is it acceptable in public in a rally?
But it's in the word mujinga in our vocabulary. Isn't Shetani Ashunde part of our lingo?
Just because words are in the vocabulary doesn't mean you use them at every occasion, right?
I don't think he has used at every occasion. He just used in that particular instance.
All right, I want to move away from that. When the election laws passed in Parliament, the reporting at the time was that there was a directive from State House to make sure that these laws passed, the Senate and the National Assembly, come what may. And that's what eventually happened.
From where I sit, I can assure you, I have never received a single phone call from the president or the deputy on how to manage the affairs in the Senate. The presidency has given us a lot of latitude as an independent state organ to do our business. The business of the government is prosecuted by the majority side and the majority leadership. And then the business of the opposition is prosecuted by minority. And my job is to ensure that whatever they do, and they're allowed to be partisan, they must follow the due process. And that one I've enforced. I have even told them in a communication from the chair, sometimes as partisan politicians, they can change their views. In one instance, they argued this way. In the same in the same circumstances, but in a different instance, they argued differently, opposite. And I said, I don't have that luxury as a speaker. I maintain the same position.
In this current House, the principle of separation of powers has become very muddied, is how a lot of people see this, that the Senate has become an appendage of Jubilee, under your rule.
I think that's only coming from you. I patronize with many ordinary Kenyans, and the feedback I get that the Senate is a very strong, effective institution, acting independently.
Do you feel you have respected the principle of separation of powers?
Absolutely. The last time, in fact, the last incident, we should tell you the story, when the executive borrowed the police, when we were doing our normal business, just to intimidate and create an appearance of some disorder, which was not there. I said from the chair that I have not sought the assistance, I don't need it, and they should be withdrawn, and they were withdrawn.
All right. I want to ask about this, though. The Public Accounts Committee of the Senate has only put out its first report in terms of having oversight over counties just recently. In 4 years, we have seen one report. Is the job of senators looking over counties really happening?
It's really happening. The issue has been the way the reports were coming from the Auditor General. In fact, the chairman of the founding chairman of the County Public Accounts and Investment Committee, Senator Dr. Bon Kalwale, raised that matter with me. And we demanded the Auditor General to make an appearance before the committee. And the Auditor General was highly constrained. I mean, we created as a nation 47 county governments. In the 47 county governments, time is 2, because you have the county executive and the county assembly.
Right.
But the resourcing that we gave to the Auditor General, we just gave him an additional 100 million. So you do not have expected the reports to come in good time as expected. So the reports delayed.
But for the Kenyans who are watching what the Senate does, one report in 4 years?
It's not just one report. We had already made some other interim reports. But these are reports of all the counties now in 4 years.
In fact, the county assemblies want the term expanded until March 2018. What is your view on that?
They are right. Actually, the term of the county assemblies is more fixed than even the parliamentary term. Because the parliamentary term, the national parliamentary term talks of, the second Tuesday of August in the 5th year. So you can argue as long as you're and we are now in the 5th session, which is the 5th year. That's fine. Also, in Article 102, that the term of parliament ends at the general election. Then you get a new one. So that one is okay. But for the county assemblies, it talks about a fixed term of 5 years.
So you support the county assemblies extending the term until March 2018?
They are not extending the term. I support, it's not my support. I'm saying I am sympathetic to the view that they believe that they have a fixed 5-year term. But that's an issue I think is before the courts. It's the courts that are the state organ responsible for interpreting. So whatever outcome the courts will determine, that's what we'll take.
Do you also support a proposal by some senators, some MPs, to be paid for the rest of the term they would have served, even after August 2017?
That may not be sustainable in law.
So you don't think they deserve this extra money they're asking from the taxpayers?
I'm saying it's not sustainable in law. There is no such argument to justify.
Senator Ekwe Ethuro, thank you so much for coming on tonight.
Thank you, Larry,
we
for having
appreciate
me.
all the time you have spent with us and helped us understand a bunch of issues going on in the country right now.
Thank you.
Senate Speaker Ekwe Ethuro on lots of matters of national importance.